So the last couple days, I would say by last week, because the machines have been turned up, whatever the machines are, okay, they've been turned up, climate change, whatever. It's all speculation, can't prove a damn thing. But I know about HARP, CERN, Wi-Fi, and microwaves and all that. But still, again, there is no proof of anything. So still, um, I had an awakening of ear pain and a little bit of jaw pain, but it was very minor. Had some hives the last couple days. And I definitely had to take naps. I had hunger pangs this morning, a lot of hunger pangs this morning, and I had to release those demons. Okay? And so I don't have the strong hunger pangs. I'm just drinking coffee with cream or milk and sugar. But last night I went to bed eating spaghetti. I didn't eat all of it because I wasn't hungry for the rest of it. And so I didn't feel like getting up and putting it downstairs. So I had a little bit next to me on the side of the bed. And I don't usually go to sleep with food next to me on the table. But last night I had hunger pangs like you would not believe, like hunger pangs. And it reminded me of a couple years ago when I was so hungry because the frequencies woke up so many juvenile cells that were very hungry and needed to eat and then also be released. And there were still a bunch of cells in the body that had to do that and would go through the process of waking up, needing to be fed, and then released. Waking up, needing to be fed, and then released. And that is what I've been doing the last 7 years, is waking up my immune system, or the environment has been waking up my immune system. I would feed all the juvenile cells, and then I'd have to release those cells. I'd have to go and let them go into the sewers and go find another home because they're not going to make a home in me. And so that's even what hunger pangs are, is that you do wake up, like not you, but the environment wakes up juvenile cells. And if you don't have an adequate or an effective release process, it turns into cancer. And so then I realized that, why do these women get breast cancer? Because they have lymph nodes around their breasts. Okay, and they've done things to stop their body from releasing. They have either the blockages in their lymph nodes in their breasts have been passed down from generation to generation. And so then when the body wants to go and release and regenerate, it can't release the juvenile cells. And so then you have these cancer cells in the body that don't always turn into cancer until all the conditions are right. And that's the same thing with all the different lymph nodes in the body. I haven't felt any pain under my armpits for, I would say, a few months. So this last frequency change is the hives. I had a few hives yesterday. It was a pain in the jaw and the ear. And when I actually literally did my method, released those demons, no more pain. But that's on top of 7 years of feeding myself. That's on top of last summer eating so much ice cream, feeling bloated and a little bit tired. Not like I was a year ago, July. Okay, so every year has progressively become easier and easier to deal with the waking up of the juvenile cells and releasing them, and also maturing the ones that are strong in my body. And that's essentially what's going on out there, is the system is slowly releasing the weak people through different means. Psychological, environmental, intellectual. And so we don't want to have a repeat of what happened back in World War II. And so there's a different war that's waged, and everyone gets a choice. They're giving you a little bit of a chance to redirect if you have what it takes. Some of you are so far gone that the only thing you can do is resist what's going on. And you'll resist yourself out of existence, and then your kids won't have a mother or a father because you have resisted yourself out of existence. That's what I see for some of these kids. And I feel sorry for some of these kids out there because they have a single mom or a single dad. And the mother is resisting evolution, and she's recommending resisting evolution, recommending supplements, recommending antibiotics, recommending things. And they have small children. And so the system isn't doing anything to you that you already haven't done to yourself or will continue to do because you can't change. And it's not the system's fault. And I remember my mother telling me many years ago, you have choices. There are so many choices. The system is giving you so much rope. The system is giving you so much rope. Many of you are given so much latitude. And yet we see what you'd rather do. We see that you're afraid of the flu mist. You're afraid of the flu. We see that you're afraid of lab-created meat. We see that you're afraid of the air, the food, the water. And you will resist the environment. You won't even move from where you are because you're in harm's way. The system knows this. You're given so much fucking latitude. They've given me so much latitude. I mean, they held my feet to the fire the last 7 years, and I appreciate that. I mean, when you think about it, after all that rigmarole, which really wasn't rigmarole, but after all of that pain and suffering, and I still stood with it. Once you get to the other side of the pain and suffering, and you look back on what you went through, and then you understand both sides of the argument. Because I'll tell you, it's difficult to see another side of the argument because you want an idealist outcome. But that's not always possible. And so then you have to relinquish the obsession of wanting to save the world. You relinquish the obsession of wanting to resist change and evolution. And then you finally see what the system is doing. And the system is not wrong. Government is not wrong when you think about it. It's such an interesting phenomenon. When you've played the anti-government card for so many fucking years, and then you realize why they exist for a reason. And then you see these anti-government people that are major right-wing conspiracy theorists, like, oh, government is horrible, government's bad, everything's bad about the government, we need no government. How long are they going to play that card? As they're taking their supplements and their detoxes and resisting evolution. And just resisting in general. Resisting what? You can't resist the weather, it's out there, it's all around you. You can't resist living because then you'll die. And so they're punching air. When you think about it, and selling people into that lifestyle. That's exactly what the government wants. They want you to make that choice. And people are choosing. And you can't get mad. Again, you can't get mad, though people think they're in my corner. Some people think they're in my corner. Oh, I get you, Jillian. No, you don't. Or you wouldn't be recommending iodine. You wouldn't be recommending supplements to your friends. You wouldn't be selling death to your friends and family. No, you don't get it, but I understand why you're kissing up to me, because you think if I were to be like, yeah, you're right, okay, I get it, on your end, on your particular part that you may agree with me on, that would then absolve you, and then everything else would be okay too. I mean, it's fine. It's not for me to judge, but you don't get where I'm coming from. But that's fine. You're on my Facebook. I just draw energy from seeing that other side that some of you still resist. Okay, and again, it's not for me to say whether you should or should not, because maybe you don't have what it takes to actually embrace what it means to evolve, what it means to stop resisting, what it means to assimilate. And so then you become the example of what not to do in the world of the J world. But then you are the balancing force. If you pass away and your child passes away because of your choices, then that leaves room for the rest of the world to make choices and eat the food and take the space that you would have taken up. And it's only a matter of time for many of you where you will resist yourself out of existence, drink yourself out of existence, drug yourself out of existence, purify yourself out of existence. And so again, believe me, I'm not blind to what most of you who I'm in contact with on so many different levels are doing. I know what you're doing. I don't follow you all the time. But whatever it is I do see, I understand what's going on. And so it doesn't mean I say, hey, that's wonderful that you're doing that. No, I care about you and I don't want you doing what you're doing, but you do what you do. And I can't confront you, but I can only call people on it publicly without going personal. Because it's not just that person, it's the one behind them too. They're doing the same thing. There are so many clones out there in society, so much redundancy out there in society that I'm not talking to just one person. Though you might think I'm talking about you, but let me tell you, there's so many like you out there that are resisting evolution, selling their friends and recommending friends supplements, and fear against any kind of therapy And again, I'm not saying I'm going to take a therapy. I'm not taking any therapy. I haven't taken a therapy since 2000, since I was in the military, when they gave us so many rounds of shots. And then I remember 2001, another frequency change. And I was the only one that was so sick in my office when I was over there at Pacific Union Homes, over there in Danville, California. I was the only one that was so fucking sick. You could say it was the V, not necessarily, but it maybe so. Or maybe not. Maybe, who knows? But I was the only one that was sick. But who knows what else was in it? But I also had so many other issues going on. So I can't even blame all the V's back then. Because there's so many factors that are involved. And I had so much damage from so many years. Even back in 2001. 20-something years ago. What am I, 49? 50? So about 30, 20-something years ago? I had 30 years of damage on top of genetic damage. On top of war. But still, I was the only one. But then I have not done anything in the therapies world since 2000. Okay? I mean, I've done the herbal remedies. I've done all the Theraflus, because every time I got a flu, I would take Theraflu. Or anything else that was over the counter. So I'm sure that a lot of the issues, the hives and all the different symptoms that came up was my body releasing all of that antigen, antibody programming from all the antibiotics and the supplements that I did even the last 7 years. Well, yeah, because in the beginning of the J World 2016, 2015, I was doing so many herbal remedies, so many different supplements, because I was circulating in the holistic world, trying to figure out what the fuck was wrong with me. Because I couldn't figure out why I was getting this PMS. And I had to go and try to uncover. And then you get lost down the rabbit holes. Okay, so the system has given us so much rope. Even the Hollywood celebrities. So right now, Russell Brand, he was out under so much hot water. So much hot water. They're bringing up his past. Because somehow he's veering away from the party line. Remember, I was veering away from the party line. I had to say things in a certain way. I couldn't make absolutes. I couldn't say absolutes. I couldn't say, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Da, 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 da. Okay? No. The last 7 years I had to figure out why the government does what it does and give people a way out so they're not being ambushed by absolutes. Because there really are no absolutes. Everyone is being given a choice. It's a matter of, are you aware of the choices being given? So maybe Russell Brand figured out how to make money off of making absolutes, being completely anti-government. And this government's like, okay, no more of this shit. We're going to now put your feet to the fire and expose all the things you've done to your ex-girlfriends, and even allegations that may or may not be true, alleged. And let's see you come back from that. So he's going through the same fucking trial by articles that I have. And is he going to be like, okay, maybe somewhere I did say absolutes and that was not okay, and I bit the hand that fed me? Is he going to now go back and apologize for what he has done in the past when he was 20 years old, 30 years old, or whatever? Because he's about my age. Okay. The programming is wearing off, breaking down. And that's also what Andrew Tate's going through. He went through his own bullshit. Now he's trying to come back from the other side of it. That's why all these celebs are being exposed on some level, because they were given a culture. They were given a platform to speak. They were given a lifestyle. But they had to play their part. And if they saw there was something going on, they couldn't say this is exactly what's going on. They had to give people a way out. But if they don't know a way out, and the only thing they know is to blame and be anti-government, the government's not going to let you do that. The media won't let you do that. Let me tell you, I've been in their shoes. I know exactly what they're going through. Now I understand. So there is no Illuminati per se. It's the system of law and order is what is in control. And again, there are ways to say things that give people another option to choose from. When you say the government is trying to kill you as an absolute, you can't fucking prove that, because if that's true, we'd all be dead. So what actually is going on? Now that's your responsibility to figure out where are you responsible to how you can survive climate change. And as far as what happened to Maui Lahaina, there is still no actual proof. You could speculate, and we all do, but again, there are no absolutes. You got to give people another story to work from. And that's why I exist and have been existing, because I'm giving people another story to work from, but still acknowledging that there is no proof of my speculation, but you still get a way out. And I'm not making claims, and I'm giving you a different way to deal with how to release demons, whatever that means to you, but being able to release disease without using antibiotics, without using crazy instruments in your body, without relying on somebody else. Okay? There's strategy to all this. No matter what goes on out there, you can't fucking control it or stop it. So you can only adapt to it. And you try to resist it, you'll die anyways, because you'll weaken and weaken and weaken. So how do you strategize your survival without finding an enemy, looking for an enemy, and mischaracterizing the situation? Even though your perception might be correct on one end, but then it's incorrect on another end, because if that was the case, that the government's trying to destroy everyone, we would all be dead. There wouldn't be anyone alive. And that wouldn't be prudent for the government, because they need the people, okay? But what kind of people? That's what you have to figure out. Are you the kind of person the government wants in this world? And so, yeah, so when I thought about the breast cancer, okay, and that's has to do with lymph nodes being blocked up, and then the juvenile cells allowed to proliferate and not allowed to release. Because I remember feeling under my boob, and it's like always moist under there. Now, because it's bigger and it kind of hangs over a little bit, but there are lymph nodes under your breast, and when the body's trying to release, it's moist under there. Not so much because of sweat. Yeah, that also is possibly true. But women have lymph nodes around their boobs, and they have to be able to release. Okay, and when you stop the body from releasing, you're going to get lymphoma, you're going to get cancer, you're going to get disease, chronic illness, and yes, different cancers like carcinoma, sarcoma, and leukemia, and even lymphoma. I dodged the lymphoma bullets. I dodged cancer in my cervical region. I've dodged cancer in so many different areas. Under my armpits, even in my neck. During the times that I had had those hives and other things, and I had a bit of a swollen neck, but not so swollen that it was a problem, because I've opened up my system. And so why the cancer is called cancer, because it's like it looks like a crab, and it's a derivation from the Greek word crab. Well, it's a hydra. Remember I said another arm of the hydra, my book. Another arm of the hydra basically is what runs the world. Hydration. Water has life. It has hydra. And then you add in all the elements, like stuff on the periodic tables, that then have acids, and acids turn into proteins. Those proteins turn into life and intelligence and evolution. And then now you have intelligent life. Okay? And so a crab is basically a hydra out there in the sea, but it has a different consistency than a regular hydra, like a jellyfish. But that's all the different DNA programming, blueprint. It's adaptation. It's protective measures. Okay? And so then when you have cancer, those are juvenile cells, juvenile hydra. Then you feed them. Like I did this. Well, actually, I didn't feed them this morning, because I released them before I needed to. Last night I was feeding them because I wasn't ready to release. My body had to go through the process. So that's why I had spaghetti right next to me on my table, and fell asleep with spaghetti on the table next to me. And I don't usually do that, but yesterday I was so hungry, and I felt the hunger pangs. It was such a trip, but it wasn't as strong as it was the last couple of years. Okay, so I still fed the babies and let them do their thing, had weird dreams about being skinny and hungry. We all had these dreams, so the frequencies are now shifting. All right, some of you have said you had dreams of being skinny or hungry or something. And then this morning, I woke up and I released those demons. I released the baby. So I fed them. You feed the children and you release them. You feed the children and you release them. That's how you're going to fucking survive. But you have to understand your alimentary canal. And when the system has sexualized all of your openings, and they said, oh yeah, girls have long nails. Okay. And then you're only supposed to be penetrated by your significant other, allegedly, or by a doctor or a nurse. Yeah. So you've already been groomed to have somebody else mess with your openings, whether it's your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband and wife, or your doctor. So then you can't tell the difference between a doctor and a sexual partner because they're both penetrating you with something. That's how psychologically crazy the system is when they've conditioned people to not know anything about their body parts and to always elicit a stranger or somebody else to go and penetrate them. That's the kicker. That's the kicker. So that's why you can't do anything with your kids. Only a doctor can do whatever with your kids. And your kids won't really have what it takes to understand what's going on. And so you just hope they survive growing up with all of that programming. Because that really, in your colon, is your programming. That's your software. That software programs the hardware to do what it does or what it doesn't do. And that's what people don't realize, is that their colon, their gut, is everything. It's what actually even runs the brain. Because if your gut's all fucked up, your brain's going to be fucked up. And if you don't understand how to control the life in your gut, then people have different thought processes. They have different realities. And you can't say it's wrong or right. It's what it is until they are aware enough to realize what actually controls our brain. See, they say that your gut is your second brain. No, your gut is your first brain. Your gut, those intestines are like the brain. They look like a brain. And it also releases the excess. Just like up here, you have a brain up here, and your mouth, right, is releasing energy, excess. Sometimes it throws up because it needs to. Sometimes it has to blow its nose because it needs to. So both ends can release the waste and produce life, obviously. And then if you are not releasing the excessive life in your colon, in your gut, then sexual reproduction happens. And then the person goes and produces life, like their sexuality. And sometimes it turns into a baby. But once you release those demons out of your colon on a regular basis without taking away substance or compromising your immune system, then your sexuality, your hormones of sexuality are tempered and they don't run you. There's no drive to procreate. And you can turn them on and off if you want, but if no one's around, turning you on purposely, then you don't even have to have sex. That's the straddling of both worlds, is when you're living in a world where everyone's about sexuality and turning people on for so many reasons because of their needs. And you're in that kind of relationship, you got to play both sides, but still know your boundaries. But you can still play both sides and straddle both worlds. But you know that if that wasn't there, you could live without it. And it would not make a difference if you had it or didn't have it or whatever. When you can live without actually having sex, holy crap, what kind of horizons, new horizons would you be able to conquer when you're not driven by your sexual hormones? On any level, it doesn't matter if it's gay or straight or anything else. That's a new kind of freedom, when you're not run by your sex drive. Okay? But cancer are all the juvenile cells that John said underutilized, but not even that. They don't even have a purpose because the parent cells are breaking down. When parent cells break down, they have nothing to teach their kids. So you have like Lord of the Flies, survival of the fittest. Then you have war. Go look out there in cities where you have a bunch of kids who are part of gangs, there's no adults around, and they're roaming the streets looking for shit to get into. Those are juvenile cells that don't have a purpose. We're not programmed for a purpose, so they're wreaking havoc on society. That's what cancer is. And they just eat. They consume. They take. And they're chaotic. Go look at your Facebook on some of these kids that say stuff that don't really have a purpose. Their parents are, who knows where their parents are. And they're trolling people because that's what they were taught to do. They have nothing else to do with their time. They're not studying for anything. So what do? They go and troll. That's crazy. And so you've been outwitted by your government. You have been. Everybody out there has been outwitted by their government. Now outlast your peers. Because you can't fight machines you can't even fucking see. You can't fight the weather. What are you going to fight? Water? It's coming right all around you. You can't fight the air. You can't fight the frequencies. You can't fight the storms. You can only get out of harm's way. I was seeing on Facebook Reels, a big wave like a tsunami came through. It was like a freak wave, but it was like really strong. Like, oh my God. And people were sitting on this deck by the ocean, and it just came through so fast. It didn't go all the way through the whole restaurant, but it went right up to the doors, the patio doors. And it was like, oh my God, that's the thing. You can't fight that. The only thing you do is run away. Or what? Sit there and be like, I'm resisting the government by sitting there in that situation? Yeah, you can't fight that. You can't resist that. People don't know that's how the war is being waged. It's a weather war. It's a climate war. You can't fight that. You can't even see the enemy. So you have to find one that's tangible, that's something that you don't like, or someone that says something you don't believe in. And then you put all your energy into that person because there's no one, you can't touch what's going on. You feel shit. You feel the frequencies. You feel the microbes in your body moving, crawling, and you have no idea who to fucking blame. Remember, I'm giving you a way out of releasing those demons, but you still have to feel the pain. And maybe you can't handle it, so you got to treat it until you're able to manage that process of releasing and retention and feeling the energy, not stuffing that genie back in the bottle. So you've been outwitted by your government on so many fucking levels. If you can acknowledge that, you have a chance. If you can acknowledge you've been outwitted by your own fucking government, you might have a goddamn chance. And so I'm going through what I didn't go through yesterday. The Bachman books. Okay, Stephen King, he's wrote some pretty interesting stuff. I didn't read all of the Bachman books, but the one that I did read was Thinner. The curse of becoming skinnier and skinnier and skinnier until you're skeletal, emaciated, and then you're basically non-existent. And that is the medical system for those who have weight issues. And you can't starve your body. I mean, who wants to do exercise every single fucking day? So what do? You take a pill. But even that has side effects. And so then what do? Then people do starve themselves. And they become, and then then what happens is then that train leaves the station. What's in motion will stay in motion until you redirect. But then when you redirect, then what's in motion stays in motion. So when you're losing so much weight, you're like, oh my God, I'm losing so much weight. And then you want to get, then you're like, okay, I can't be losing too much weight. So then you start eating again. All of a sudden you're gaining weight. So that's the thing, is you go from one extreme to the other. The whole J world is learning how to manage when you need to eat, when you need to not eat, because you'll be the one to be like, okay, I have not been craving like cream the last couple months. It was only this last summer I was drinking so much cream. I was eating whipped cream. Like, I would go and mix whipped cream, like you saw in my coffee. Put sugar in it, and I would use the blender and make this whipped cream, and I would eat it. I would eat out of my freaking cup whipped cream. And then I would be eating ice cream. Okay, so your body knows what it needs. So as long as you're giving it what it needs. And I don't have any food allergies. So I was eating ice cream cone, Neapolitan ice cream cone, all different types of ice cream sandwiches. But now lately, the last couple weeks, and we're at September 19th. And it was July, August, like it was a year ago. Everything was pretty crazy. The frequencies around July 4th was so insane, and it woke up the beast, but the beast was not as strong as it was a year ago. But I got through it, released those demons, and then now I'm in September, have not even been craving any kind of crazy ass cream. I'll tell you, half a gallon of cream that's not been processed or whipped up, like whipping cream, $9 for half a gallon. So you think about it, if a whole gallon of cream is $18 a gallon. But that was an investment that I wanted to make because it gave me the life to be able to battle the demons within, so I can release the excessive juvenile cells that were still burrowed in my body, but I had to go through the process. Okay? So the whole J world is able to manage because you will now listen to your body. And so there's the strong hunger pangs. Yeah, you feed it when it's happening. okay, during the day. But in the morning is when you release, your body goes through processes at night. That's when people wake up, or they don't wake up at night, because the body's gone through processes. So they wake up with big, huge things. They wake up with sores. They wake up with colds and flus and growths and other things, or they wake up with heart attacks and strokes, or they just die in their sleep. So overnight is so important, because that's when the body goes through its processes, and you hope you have what it takes to deal with those processes. And so then when you were hungry the day before and you've eaten so much food, and then you have to release the demons in the morning, and then the hunger is not as aggressive, or the pain is not as aggressive, or the lethargy is not as aggressive. Because even then, when I had all that lethargy, when I was feeling like I had weight in my joints, and when I released the demons the next morning, even throughout the day, the method I have in my book, I started gaining my strength back, my energy, my vitality. And it was about a month before I got all my energy back. And even then, there was still a little residual, but it was still a process. Okay? That's 7 years of going through the pain and suffering. And I did cure myself on some level, probably around 2019. That year was more cured than not, because I did so much JJ's. Then I got off it because it just didn't make sense to do any more of it. I was eating food, gained a little bit of weight. And so I was feeling okay in 2019. And then as soon as September, October, November hit, that's when everything woke up, because the frequencies changed. And so whatever I put to sleep for that year, okay, doing so much of the J juice and then getting off of it, there was still monsters inside. I just cured them inside. And so the last 3 years, from 2019, the end of that year, to 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, which is right now, I had to deal with those monsters waking up. And they were formidable. That's why you're seeing everybody out there get diagnosed or die suddenly, because the monsters are waking up. They've put to sleep for many years. And now we're in a frequency change, climate change. People are not prepared to deal with these monsters inside. They haven't reinforced their immune system, because they've been turning to so many remedies and therapies. They're starving, so their blood vessels are weak. And so when the body does produce growth like that, or want to push stuff out, it breaks blood vessels. They get aneurysms, they get strokes, or they get so many clots, or they drown in their own mucus. It's pretty grim, isn't it? It's pretty fucking grim. And so, yeah, I was also watching some of the analysis of Trump. I said interesting psychoanalysis, because the system is psychoanalyzing him. That's why they're calling him the HITLER, because of the very narrow point of view and how he has galvanized people to be very nationalistic and loyalistic, and kind of reminiscing of the days of HITLER. I'm not saying that was intention, but there are specific characteristics of people that get people that radicalized and intolerant. But then we've also been radicalized against control, or what you say, communist. And really, communism is not as bad as people think, because when you actually read Prairie Fire, which is a type of communist manifesto on some level, but not like you think, like it's advocating people just die, just anyone. But there's a reason why this exists, because of intolerance and of imperialism, and people arbitrarily saying that one person is not fit to live because they don't fit these specific belief systems and characteristics. And so the system knows how easy it is when someone is intolerant to go and just genocide someone just because of what they look like, what they believe in, what their religion is, what their politics are. And we can't go back to that anymore. So anyways, there is a video that I put on my Facebook that psychoanalyzes and just tries to give people another side of who Trump is. I'm not saying his intention, again, is to hurt anyone, but he sees there's an enemy, and, you know, he's been given so much latitude as well. But he also drew out a base of people who don't want to change either, and not understanding why things are the way they are. And the system has been telling us that, yeah, climate change, we can't have racism anymore. We can't have sexism anymore. We got to stop objectifying and destroying women, though that even has kind of been turned around even in the feminist movement, because just because you're so free about your sexuality as a woman and you're not tied to being in the house serving a man, you're now serving a bunch of men versus just one man. So, and also you're making babies for them, or you are becoming a plaything for some playboy. So now I've taken a step further and said, wait, what if we can temper all sexuality so it doesn't become something somebody abuses or is driven by to then become predatory? Okay? So that's where the J-World is taking things a step further. Where does all of this predatory behavior and victim behavior originate from? And yeah, it's aggressive, rampant sexuality on bodies that have not developed fully and have a lot of different issues that need to be taken care of, but you can't force someone again to become whole. And so with this October 4th thing that's coming up, and everyone's like, oh, you see people who are resisting what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, take your phone and bury it or something, or turn off your phone because you don't have to hear the, my phone is on silent, but even if it's on silent, whatever emergency broadcast is going to come through anyways. At this point, I don't even care. I mean, if it's that aggressive, those frequencies are supposed to rile up someone who is that intolerant and predatory. Well, they already had it within them. It's just a matter of drawing it out, right? So if you don't have those tendencies within you, then these frequencies from even an emergency signal shouldn't really affect you to such a degree. But if it does, then you hold that shit inside. I mean, this isn't only triggers what already people hold inside. That's what you have to understand. Okay, if you already hold those algorithms of predatory behavior and intolerance, the system is only going to draw it out and see who it is. And you'll act upon that. So look at your Facebook. And so then you have to be the one to lessen those triggers in your body and to become resilient when things are a little bit cattywampus, like some kind of emergency signal that they say it might be for a half hour, but I don't know if that's true or not. October 4th is going to come up pretty soon. We'll see what happens. But hey, if there is an emergency and there is something like that goes on, and they're saying, hey, there's like an incoming of some whatever, go take cover, and there's an actual alarm that says take cover, and you've buried your phone or did something, or I don't know what the hell, okay? You won't know. You'll be out there and you didn't get that signal. So you got to be discerning on how you're going to resist what's going on. And when they're giving you clues on, we're going to warn you something's going to happen, like watch the weather because there's going to be tornadoes in Oklahoma this coming week. They showed you there's a storm over here on the Atlantic coast, and there's a storm coming through Oklahoma and North Texas, the panhandles over there. Maybe prepare your family, prepare your situation, batten down the hatches so you don't fucking die. I mean, that's not rocket science, okay? So it's time to have a little discernment and not throw away the baby with the bathwater, which seems to be what activists do. Okay? And so those warnings on October 4th might save your life. Because when you read it and it says take cover because there's a ballistic missile coming through and you're in an area and you don't have your phone or you turned everything off on October 4th, then you'll be the one out there hit by a ballistic missile while someone's down there in the basement going like, oh shit. And they survive while those are out there running around going like, oh look, I resist the government. I mean, come on. Play this fucking smart. Don't be a total idiot. All right? It's fun to play both sides and knowing I'm not harming anyone. I'm in the trenches with y'all, and I'm strategizing my survival. So there's a meme that I doctored and evolved, and they're like, oh, those who know the least or something will be the one that's most in abeyance or something. They will obey the most. I'm like, are you kidding me? Wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is a choice. Because, again, you don't have to go to that store that requires a mask. You don't have to go into that government building that requires a mask. You can just call the government or you can have things delivered to you. And so it's not about obeying. It's about listening to indicators and making a choice. Is it prudent for you? Is it worth it to you to listen to the warnings, whether it's in your body, mind, or spirit, or from your government, But then what are these warnings for? Well, you may not say, when they say, hey, maybe take a V or do this, because you're not prepared for an aggressive immunological response. So maybe this might lessen it. There's no guarantee again, right? But that's their warnings. Again, the system doesn't know which side of the spectrum you stand on as far as tolerance to disease, and even a little bit of disease maybe you can't handle. But again, there's no way to guarantee that you can even handle a little bit of disease that would be required for some kind of protection. So it's just government warnings, but then you have to discern whether it is worth it to you to listen to them about a ballistic missile coming through your environment and to get into your basement, or to move to higher ground if there's a flood, or to take a V because of your health issues for whatever reason. I mean, you're going to make a choice. Everything's a fucking choice. It's not about obeying. But if they say if you're a juvenile and you're not supposed to be out after 11, okay, you're a juvenile. You don't have the right to be out after 11 if there's a law that says juveniles can't be out by 11. Okay, if there's a lockdown for whatever reason, and only people who, I don't know how far they're going to take it, and if they take it however far, it is what it is. There's reasons why, I don't know always the reasons, maybe, and they say it's a lockdown, and nobody can be out today on Saturday because of whatever they give you. They could say because of COVID, right? But maybe the frequencies will be turned up so high for whatever reason. Maybe they're seeing a big, huge climate cloud that's going to come in and it's going to cause whatever, you can make up any story you want, or they say it's intentional. And it's going to cause maybe accidents. It's going to cause people to go crazy. It's going to cause zombie apocalypse. And so then those who are home will not be out in the road getting hit by those who are going through a rapture, going through an aggressive energy conversion that they can't handle. And so when you're home, you're not in harm's way. You're not being targeted by some zombie out there that's doing stupid shit. You're not in a bus that the driver is dying because of whatever. And so maybe it's prudent to stay home when they say to stay home, because you don't know what else is going on out there that you could be in harm's way, even inadvertently. So I'm just saying, look at all the possibilities and scenarios of why. And then you realize that we are in a climate change, and it's affecting people's mental and physical and other stabilities, and even just how they drive. Maybe listen to the government. But again, if you're all about resistance, you throw away the baby with the bathwater. And so I'm just strategizing my survival. And I'm just saying, just think of more scenarios than just, they want control over you. Just think that, again, when certain frequencies make people go a little bit crazy, certain situations make people get more aggressive, and you don't want to be in harm's way when someone who's under the influence of like meth or other types of uppers, and the frequencies change because of climate change, and they activate. And you could be right there in the crosshairs. You don't want to be in the crosshairs of someone who doesn't have control over their mind because they're under the influence on such a level. And so maybe it's better to stay home because of that's how unpredictable it is out there. You got to look at the bigger picture, not just your little small picture of resistance. But you know how people are, they just, oh my God, it trips me out how people are. So just think of your brain as a state. When you try to erase the state, you erase your brain. You erase your gut. You erase the hormone regulation. And so I saw a group called Erase the State, and that's where that meme came from about obeying and masks and all that other shit. And I'm like, are you serious? When you think about, again, anarchy. Anarchy is when there's no organization, no rule of law, it's straight up law of the jungle. It's like kill or be killed. It's like going out there in the middle of the most wildest part of some place in the middle of the Atlantic. Senegal, I forget what they're called, but they're a tribe that has been around for so long you can't go there because they've been basically untouched, or they've destroyed missionaries. And so if they don't know you, if they don't like you, they'll just destroy you. That's the law of the jungle. We don't mess with those people. Just leave them alone. Okay? But that's what anarchy is law of the jungle. And you have people just destroying someone because they look different or act different or do things differently. You seriously want to live in that kind of world where one person who's a dictator says, okay, you can live and you can die? That's what anarchy is. That's destruction of humanity. And so those are like all against the state. Okay, could you survive in the jungle out there in Africa where there are warring factions in parts of, not all of Africa, parts of Africa, or even Haiti? Go put someone who's anti-government in Haiti when they've overthrown their own government. And so now it's the law of whoever's the strongest, who's the most well-armed. And girls are being compromised. Boys are being conscripted into the military and maybe even damaged and beaten up if they're not the right kind of person. You seriously think that someone in America who's anti-government could survive in the law of the jungle in an anarchy type situation? These little skinny white boys who are right-wing anti-government would not survive in fucking Haiti. They really want no government anarchy? Put them in fucking Haiti. See how they survive. Oh no, they've been running away with their tail between their fucking legs. Because they've been so privileged here to be able to say what they want. And they don't really know what the reality is of what actual anarchy is. It's going to Haiti. Rwanda, when they had all their different things going on. That's why when you finally release those demons of activism and resistance and trauma, then the logic comes in. Then finally, if you feed your brain all the right information, which is what, everything, then you realize how ridiculous your activism was back then. Because I'll tell you, these soft soy boys who are all like, oh yeah, it's all about voluntarism, homeschool everybody, don't listen to the government, anti this, anti-anarchy, everything. These soft suburban white boys that have nothing else going on except to resist or build a platform of resistance. They're all into their supplements. They wouldn't last a fucking day in Haiti. They wouldn't last a fucking day. They would be put in their place so fucking quick. And so one fine day, many will find love and return to the sea. Oh my God, I love that movie, Splash. That was my favorite. That's what really just, so I remember my mother gave me, or she let me, she bought like those tapes, or those cassette tapes of like Two Live Crew and who was the other one? Gosh. All those dirty rappers. Like, I listened to dirty rap as a kid. I listened to it. No, she didn't censor anything. See, so watching Splash and listening to all the censored rapper artists, and I remember Tipper Gore was against the dirty rap of the 1980s. And my mom's like, here, I'm not censoring anything. Here, listen to this. Well, you know why, right? Because that does shape you. It shapes your sexuality. It shapes how men treat you. All that dirty rap. Oh, yeah. So even though my mother didn't do anything specifically that I know of to me, but the programming, and I didn't watch those movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but it was the music, the dirty rap. It was watching the soft love shit, like from Splash. It's all about love, finding the right love. Everything's about love, 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 love. So that way, it's not her that's done anything, it's the community. It's the culture. When the culture is about sexualizing women and men being violent to women, and then also teaching her how to be academic and be a respectable human being, right? Be a respectable woman, but then allowed to listen to the dirty rap and watch like Splash and Pretty Woman and Saturday Night Fever, not Saturday Night Live. Then you see how influential music is, how obviously movies are. And then you really can't blame the parent, but you can because they expose, but then, hey, you don't censor, right? People are like, oh, don't censor everything on Facebook. Y'all censor stuff. Well, there was a reason why. People are easily influenced. So easily influenced. And they take everything to extreme. So yeah, Facebook has to censor. There's a reason why Tipper Gore was what she was promoting back then. Because look at the violence against women, domestic violence, sexual predation, sexual violence, deviancy. And then you look at Playboy and Larry Flint, Penthouse, and all the porn. And now these guys can't even control their hormones. They're so predatory, not all of them, but a lot of them are so predatory, run by their hormones. And then now they're coming out, the newspapers or the articles are coming out about how some of these guys who were 20s and 30s couldn't control their hormones, thought they can get away with stuff, and they did. So the system had them right where they wanted them. No different than with Epstein. Had everyone who was all about sexuality to such an extent, aggressive sexuality, that little black book had people right where the system wanted them. And that was how the system would be able to control. And so right now, you don't know everyone in the black book. You just see speculation. But if someone goes out of line, they'll bring out the black book and redact some of the people, but then have others be exposed. So if you have 50 names and two people are exposed, but the other ones are redacted, what do they do to be exposed? Who do they piss off? And then you see the black book again. Now there's 3 names. What did he do to piss somebody off? And all of a sudden, those that don't fall in line, they will be exposed through that little black book. Another article will come out and be like, oh, we found this. Oh, we found that. Oh, so I'll tell you. I'm telling you. There's a lot of psychological programming going on. And I remember now, as my body and mind is clear, I remember everything in my childhood. Not so much as a baby, but ever since I can remember, the last remember is falling asleep in my high chair. Just falling asleep because I just was so tired in my high chair. Okay? So you got to realize how influential music is, how influential movies are, how influential people's activism can be, and how far they can take it. And they can take it to such an extreme. And so that's why Facebook censors. Because that's how people get radicalized and they do stupid shit. And so I remember back in 2012 when I was deep in the conspiracy world and I was making friends with all the different organic people, all organic farmers and all the Ascension stuff and the Nibiru people. And then we were watching the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and you saw them run through the history of the West. So through we know 1776. And then the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution, the 1900s, the New Society. You can say, I don't say the Renaissance period, because that was way before then. But the New Society, the Victorian era, when we started becoming a bit more civilized, and then also moving west, if you're in America. So they had the Dust Bowl and all that. And so when you think about how old America is, it's not that old. 1776 was not that long ago. 1860, the Civil War, was not that long ago, even in the UK. And so Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the start of the U.S. Industrial Revolution, is often dated to 1793, when the first water-powered roller spinning textile mill opened in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Yeah, Rhode Island. My dad's from Rhode Island. Okay, so he's from a generation of a lot of people that came here. Birthplace of the Industrial Revolution is the UK. The modern factory owes its origins to the mills of Cromford, where Richard Arkwright inventions were first put into industrial scale production. Further factories followed first in the Derwent Valley and soon all over the world. So the UK, I'm telling you, the UK was the birth of America. When you think about it, because everyone that was in the UK went to America, they say, oh yeah, I'm resisting the religious stuff, whatever. We want to practice our own religion. But that's all been infiltrated. Okay, maybe that was the storyline, but maybe there's more to it. But that was the main storyline, is religious freedom. Okay, great. And so the Olympics opening ceremonies, it shows you the buildup, shows you the different inventions over the years and all the history of the UK, the US. So there's a reason why 2012 was the opening ceremonies, was going through all of that history, because then it was all going to be erased. And I'll say erased literally, it's going to live on the internet. But as far as your geography, it's going to be reconfigured. Okay, and so is the future. We're not going to be living in the old world. We're in the new world now. Okay? And so now the Great Reset. Remember, the opening ceremonies with the Grim Reaper and the kids in the beds and the hospitals and the dancing nurses. Remember that. Remember even in the pandemic, there was dancing nurses. And like, how do people have time dancing? Where does this come from? It's a ritual. It's a ritual. We are in a ritualistic society. You just have to understand what it is and get out of harm's way. And if you don't get it, you'll be caught up in the ritual. You'll volunteer for something. You have no idea what you're volunteering for, and be used as a patsy. And those that do stick their neck out and they're not aware of what's going on and all the arguments, and they become a radicalist, the system will knock them down to size until you temper your radicalism and understand why it does what it does, and learn how to give people, again, a choice. And that means also in belief systems. Give people a choice. I can't prove that this is what they're doing, but this is my speculation, and maybe it's not even right or true, but I'll never know, but this is my speculation, and I'm allowed to have my belief system, my religion, right? Religious freedom is like, oh, I believe in Christ, or no, I don't believe in Christ. My religion is, I believe it's government that's doing this purposely. Oh, my religion is, no, I don't believe in government's doing this purposely. I think it's like the cycles of the universe. Okay, it's still a religion belief system. You're allowed to have it. And there's no absolutes. You see how that shit works? There are no absolutes. That's how you give people the option. You don't ambush them with your politics and say, this is the way, this is the only way, and that's it. It's fucking smart. Remember, we are heading into sustainability, which is why my info is extremely timely, and I do hammer the points home. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that the sustainability means that you have to release those demons, and you have to be able to handle adaptation. And those who choose to be disposable, will sell death to their friends and family. And they'll have licenses around it. And they'll justify it through spirituality, through religion. And that's fine. If you want to dispose of yourself and elicit followers who also think of themselves as disposable, okay, great. I know what you're doing. And maybe you don't think you're doing that. But of course, if you believe people should die someday, and you're just giving them a nice way out and a spiritual way out, that's still categorizing yourself as disposable, because they made you believe that there's a better place over there. How do you fucking know? You've never been there. How do you fucking know? Oh, I have faith it's going to be better than this. The only reason why it's so horrible now is because you haven't taken care of your body. You're in major deficit, and you're in resistance, and you found some absolution. And so if you want to categorize yourself as disposable, and you want to bring everybody around you with you, you're doing the system a favor. The government doesn't have to do shit. They don't have to lift a finger, because they've radicalized all of you who think of yourselves as disposable to go and take down everyone around you. And I still respect you. Okay? But I must say what I need to say. I must say what I need to say. Because again, when you recognize what things are for what they are, you can't just keep it to yourself. I mean, you could, but why? I know what you're doing. Even if you deny what you're doing, I know what you're doing. You know eventually what you're doing. You're just in denial because you have to justify. Because you've already invested your whole life. Your husband or your wife is keeping you trapped, so you'll justify. And I get it. If you could change, you probably would. If you can handle what I'm doing, you probably would. I don't know how you're going to tell your friends and family, well, I'm not going to sell you any more herbs and supplements or spiritual absolution, because I really think that you deserve to live, after you told everyone that they should die someday. And here's a way out. And pluck your hormones on the way out the door so you can see visions of sugar plums dancing in the whatever. I mean, how do you pull back from what you said before? You can't, so you're trapped. That's how the system gets people. And so many of you are redundant. So will you be the best copy? And I'm telling you, all the herbalists and all the gods and gurus, and go look out there on your Facebook, all of them are a dime a dozen. They all believe you should die someday. They're into their organic bullshit. They can't handle pain. And they always hang out in groups. And they're always giving away their power to somebody else or blaming somebody else. And I hope they survive. Some people say, hey, I believe in God and God made us, and I'm fine with that. Somebody reached out to me, and his words rung so differently this time. Because I know that him and I have gone head to head, and I blocked him and then I brought him back. Because I know I try to give people an opportunity to see my stuff, and I feel that they're like, okay, resisting or whatever. And then I get all pissy and I block. And then I'm like, you know what? I like this person, and then I pull back and I bring them back on. And it's just this back and forth shit. But because I want to give everybody a chance. I want them to live. I know they believe in their God and whatever, whether it's Islam or it's Jesus Christ or whatever, that's fine. And if they have a way to survive, fucking A. Could you survive and still have your belief system? Absolutely. You can believe whatever the hell you want. And maybe you will be that one person that believes in Islam or Jesus Christ or somebody else and releases the demons, takes personal accountability without giving away their power to somebody else. And you can say God or DOG, whatever. And you can be that one person that survives. Okay. So I do paint broad strokes. Doesn't mean that somebody who is religious couldn't find a way to survive and still keep their belief system. I have yet to see that. But then again, it's time will only tell. People can say what they say and then they die tomorrow. We don't know what people are doing. We just know what they say they're doing. And so I just give everybody the benefit of the doubt to figure it out. Okay? But I like hearing that they're going to find a way to survive. I like hearing that no matter what, they still have their beliefs, that we're all made from God. Okay, fine. I can give that because who made the first energy that made the next energy? So obviously there's some other higher power, whoever it is, but I don't want to go... I choose not to go back that far, but if you want to go back that far, that's okay. And it's not for me to say that you can't. I try to just deal with the here and now, that why go back to that single cell that was energized by something that we don't know what. Okay, if you want to go back that far, fine. So anyway, so I can cohabitate with that. And we're still on the same page when you think about it. We're all trying to fucking survive, regardless of what we believe or not believe. Okay? And so government corruption still gives you the chance to opt in or opt out. So people are like, oh my God, government corruption, you've got to stop it. You know, they're doing this or they're doing that. The Fed, who cares if Knox, Fort Knox. Who cares if Fort Knox has all the gold or doesn't? Okay? At first, yes, currency was backed by gold or backed by some kind of tangible thing. But then what are you going to do? Mine the earth for fucking gold and destroy your community? So you had some kind of backing of whatever wealth that you have represented. And then you realize you can actually develop wealth out of thin air. How do you do that? Well, you can print money or you can make digits and you develop a story around them. And so, yeah, you could just, if you want to give somebody a loan, you have the Federal Reserve print money. They print like, $1,000 or whatever. And then you want a loan. Well, do you qualify for a loan? Do you have a job? Do you have collateral? What is your habits and payments and all that? Do you have a good pay schedule? Whatever it is that qualifies you to get a loan. And then there's a specific amount of interest on top of that loan. That's banking. That's why the Rothschilds are so famous and so smart, because they understood that you don't really need to have gold or anything like that. It's how do people qualify to have money? What kind of collateral? What can they give in return? And it doesn't even matter what you're buying. I mean, it does and it doesn't. But there's so many different rules on what would qualify someone to get money up front. And could they pay it back? And then that incentivizes somebody to work and also even develop something amazing. And so who needs to have a gold-backed type of securities or a gold-backed currency when you can develop hoops to jump through and develop logic around currency and money and who gets what, when, and where? Okay? And so when there's a mortgage, like an adjustable rate mortgage, and then you don't have to have a job, and so the qualifications are slim to none, if that. If you just breathe, you can qualify for an adjustable rate mortgage, because if you have a job now, and maybe the interest rates are low now, but if they jump up, people don't look at the future. They don't know there's in history or even how things fluctuate. And so they get into all these loans now, and then somebody goes and bets against that they're not going to be able to make those loans because they didn't have the money or they couldn't afford the payments, because they have these little low-level jobs because they got into these loans at a low level and they'd have to qualify for them. And then that's the bubble. That was the arm. So you chose to get something for nothing. You chose to be greedy. Okay? So let's listen to this. Government corruption still gives you the chance to opt in or opt out. You chose to take the remedy, surgery, therapy, adjustable rate mortgage, or invest in crypto to be shorted later because you wanted to be greedy. You thought you can make something out of nothing. I mean, you could, assuming you're willing to risk and you had enough money to risk, but you could lose everything. See, when you're playing up against the government who can develop money out of thin air, just print it out, they got you by the fucking short, what is it? Just by the short hairs. Short and curly. That's what I was trying to say. They got you by the short and curlies. When you think you can get rich off Wall Street, when the system is really just going to take everything you have, they allowed people to make money off the stock market back in the 80s and 90s. These guys, like in the boiler rooms, and they're doing like the Wolf of Wall Street. Watch that. That's on Netflix now. I was watching it on Paramount. But they were telling you how they did shit. There's actually no value to the stock that they were selling. It was just inflated. Just like crypto, it's inflated. Selling your perception, you'll get rich. If everyone around you buys, right, it ups the stock. Oh, yeah, that's true. But you don't know then when someone goes and wants to short and everybody sells. They make money off of those who are buying. All of a sudden, now the stock used to be like, $50 a share. Now it's like $20. Everybody sold and they made their money. And then you're like, fuck. Because you didn't sell in time. You were trying to make it when it made $60, but you should have quit when you're ahead. That's gambling. That's tapping into people's greed. You were already greedy and you couldn't even afford to be. You chose to gamble on your family, yourselves, and your community. You chose to believe in the fear of food, GMO, and mRNA. You chose to believe in all the gods and gurus who are a dime a dozen. You chose. How does the government change society? They must break society to build it back better. Survive it and live to tell about it. Attempt to avoid resistance as it is futile. And you always have a choice to clean up your image and take personal accountability. If you choose not to, again, that was your choice, failing to understand why the system does what it does. Nothing stays the same forever, but you can survive evolution and change. You do not have to die unless that is also your choice. And so, yeah, I mean, I remember those days when I was in the insurance world, and I remember people buying houses and they couldn't afford it, but they bought houses. I was selling insurance to them. And then people were losing their book of business because people were going under. These new agents back in 2008, that's when I started, it was 2008. These agents, we were selling policies to those who can buy those houses in Elk Grove, because there's all those housing developments in Elk Grove, large houses. And then maybe 6 or 7 months later, these mortgage guys were going under. So then they went into the insurance business. And then you saw where they came from. You saw the houses that they were in. These houses were large square footage, big pools. And they still had their belongings there, but the house is now owned by the bank. And they still left their shit in the house. And then you saw where Countrywide was. There's this big, huge building, long rows of desks that when we were agents, we were allowed to go and pilfer and take whatever office supplies because it was defunct. Countrywide was gone. And so being a new agent back in the mortgage crisis, that was itself, and it was a crazy circus in of itself. That's what I'm saying. When you're Gen X and you're not groomed into something, you're gonna bounce from one bubble to another, and it's crazy. It's like you keep your head on a swivel from one thing, but that's government just taking money because they knew what's going to happen in 2020. They knew eventually all that's going to go to the wayside. It was going to be a takedown at some point. So they were just milking the shit out of everybody, and they were giving you a choice. You chose to get that arm. You chose to go in and invest all of your savings in air. You chose to play the game, and then those who made money off that, those like that guy, Jordan, whatever his name is, Wolf of Wall Street, he made a shit ton of money. Smart ass fucking dude. So are the guys in Boiler Room selling those stocks. I mean, and also The Big Short with Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell. That was about the mortgage crisis. I mean, telling you, when you want to be greedy, when you are that greedy for social capital, for baubles, for money, somebody will pull the rug out from under you, and you will be bankrupt at some point because it only lasts for so long. Entitlement. When you think the government owes you an explanation, just find a way to survive the changes. The government does not owe you an explanation. My parents never owed me an explanation. They did what they had to do at the time and what was done at the time, and there are larger forces at play at the time, and I get it. And I thank God I survived. If I didn't survive, it didn't matter. If I didn't survive, holy shit, now how do I characterize? How do I characterize the world that I lived in from my childhood to my young adulthood to today? Well, I can choose how I want to characterize it. I could choose to be blaming somebody or find an enemy and stick with always looking for an enemy. Or I can choose to be like, whoa, okay, I see what was going on here. I understand. And how do you survive it? Just find ways to survive the change, because you paid money in a society does not mean you will get exactly the monetary return on the investment. It just means that they will help you transition to the new world as well, and it is painful. Change is painful. So someone wrote that, oh God, Social Security is our entitlement because we paid into it. Okay. But sometimes it may be less than what you paid into. Oh my God, I should get exactly what I paid into it. Not necessarily. The government will help you. See, that's what I'm saying. In the J world, if you stay alive, you'll tap into, when you retire at 67, especially if you're a Gen X, that'll be like 2040, 2050 or something like that. I forget. Okay, there might be some left. You might only get 70% of what you would have gotten. Okay, that's fine. By that time, we'll be in a different world by that time. And you can live off of 70% of what you would have gotten this year. Okay? And so you'll be able to live just fine. I mean, that's the thing, is that I'll be able to live. I already have scaled everything down. I don't have a large lifestyle. I know how to live with nothing. So when you have something, that's a lot, right? So I can live off of, when you think about it, I can live by myself, if you think about it, on $2,000 a month. That's a lot. $2,000 a month is a lot. If your mortgage is only like $500 a month, but I can live nicely on $2,000 a month here in Ohio. And if that's my Social Security, is $2,000 a month, I live very nicely and enjoy my life. $2,000 a month. And if I want to work, which I probably would, I'd be writing more books or working somewhere or going to school, getting a degree during that time, because I would have the time, I would have the intellectual capability, the biophysical capability I would have the infrastructure, and I would get as many degrees as possible and figure out what my contribution would be at the time. Okay? So I can live with almost nothing. And that's where you want to be, where you have streamlined everything. So you are burning clean fuel. That's the whole point of J World, is that you are burning clean fuel and you're not so consumerist that whatever it is that you're eating and buying is not going to take up more resources in order for it to be broken down and redistributed yet again. So sustainability means that whatever it is that you're using and releasing is not going to cause more infrastructure to manage it and break it down. That it'll be less of a carbon footprint. And so those are out there in California are like, oh, I'm going to ride my bike to work, which, okay, is great. Fine, ride your bike to work. But you having 10 kids, 5 kids, and they're using up so many resources. Some have mental issues, others, who knows. So I guess it's all how you balance out. Will your kids be a purpose for the community? And will the community figure out how to then manage their longevity so when they don't become useful, then they get vaporized through their own choice? See, and the system is trying to figure out how to do that. How to utilize people without prematurely taking them out. And it's still their choice somewhere. I don't know. So change is painful. And so it means that the system will help you transition to the new world. And yes, it's painful. Change is painful. And so then people are like, well, I will revolt, if we don't get what we want, whatever that is. So it is when you have no access to food and water is when you revolt. And people purposely starve themselves and think all food is poison. So what are you revolting against when you've been given access to food, access to jobs, access to water, access to space, access to law enforcement, access to due process? What are you fucking revolting against? So it's all psychological. All of you who are afraid of the lab-created meat, all of you who are afraid of GMO, all of you who are afraid of the V's and the mRNA that you think is now being transitioned to the food supply, and it could be, who knows? Not that it really matters. So all of you who have been starving yourself, thinking that the only thing you're going to eat is out of your garden or destroying an animal is the only way to survive. And when that even goes to the wayside, for whatever reason, now you can't eat the food. So then you're purposely starving yourself. You all have access to food and water. It is your choice whether or not you eat it. The system is not doing anything to you, warranting any sort of revolt. You all are in a psychological war and weather war and given plenty of warning what to expect. You choose to stay stuck and resist. And so I say, unfuck yourself. You think you're all fucked? Well, unfuck yourself. That would require you changing the way you do things, the way you believe things, what you believe. And believe it or not, there is a logic and an order to our society. It is up to you to learn what the logic and order they are developing and planning. And you have been part of the development process, but did not know the full big picture, and now you do. So some of you who are resisting, you are part of the plan, because the more you resist, the more you'll weaken yourself and you'll take yourself out. And you will elicit everyone in your politics and your religion and your science dogmas to take themselves out. Starving. Look at how many mothers are starving their children. Look at how many mothers are starving themselves. Look at how many mothers are starving their friends and family, inducing fear. Don't eat the meat. Don't eat this. Don't eat that. Everything is poison. Only eat air sandwiches. They know how influential you are. They know how influential the written word is. They know how influential people are when they follow a guru and a god. And they will sacrifice not only themselves, but their firstborn and everyone around them. That's how they know how influential even music is, and how influential celebrities are, and how influential religion is. So now you know the big picture, so survive it. And I know my parents don't owe me any explanation. I don't expect it. I don't expect the government to give me any explanation or confirm what I'm saying. And I don't expect them to give me an explanation of why it does what it does. I just have to survive it and understand the best way I can why things are the way they are. It is now up to you to try to understand why stuff is the way it is. I did not resist. I did resist so much, and I could have died many years ago, but I had it in me to survive. But some of you will have it in you to survive. Others will not. But I've been telling you, they've been telling you for many years, the last 20 years, what they're going to do, what they're doing. Be lucky you are the ones that survived thus far. And now you're in a new game. Now you know, and I feel so lucky living during these times. And I'm lucky knowing all of you. Okay? And so I'm eating the burger. I mean, right now I'm not, but I'm going to see if my husband comes home this weekend. I'm going to go and eat it and see what it tastes like. And so I'm eating the burger. And I don't care. Cruelty-free meat is the future. I will not starve myself for politics, regardless of which side you stand on. Okay, so the future of meat is Ohio Valley's Wagyu burger started out as a small biopsy of muscle taken from a young cow. Cells from that sample, mostly muscle cells and fibroblasts, which can transform into fat cells as a cow grows, can then be cultivated in the lab, growing and dividing over and over and over again. Okay? And so some of these meats are then also mixed in with plant-based proteins. But I do want to have a meat that is just all amino acids and fatty acids with obviously prohormones and minerals. And so I don't want too much of the plant-based protein, but they will be developing even a pork that is 100% meat. Okay? So the new discovery moves us closer to the cultured meat that is actually a delicious and viable alternative to animal slaughter. Researchers have produced lab-grown fat with the texture and potentially flavors of the real thing, and crucially in a way that could be quickly scaled up for the cultured meat industry. So in a nutshell, lab-grown meat or cultivated or cell-based meat is meat that is developed from animal cells and grown with the help of the nutrients like amino acids in massive bioreactors. And people are like, oh, it's from a cancer. You're eating cow cancer or some shit. Cancer is just juvenile cells, and they're just growth. They are chaotic juvenile cells that didn't have a purpose. So now, yes, all these cancer cells out there, whether it's humans or whether it's animal cancer cells, will be used with a purpose to feed your ass. Okay? Oh my God, that's so gross. No, it's just life. You need life. You need to convert that life into something that you can use so you can be strong and survive. It's all energy conversion. That's all it is. When you're eating meat out there, like actual animal meat, when it's from a cow, right? You're not a cow because you have a blueprint that has a specific purpose. And so that cow has a specific purpose. It eats grass and water, but it develops so much meat. That's interesting. How does a cow not turn into grass? Because a cow has a specific blueprint. Okay? And so then you're eating a cow that's full of meat, and that then you will convert that to then human proteins with a purpose. Everything gets converted relative to the intention and the purpose. That's what these vegan and vegetarians don't understand. And so they have turned themselves into anorexics, living off of tofu and maybe eggs. Well, I'm sorry, but you need to have a lot of substance to you to handle climate change. You can't just live off of eggs and tofu. You need the substantial steaks and the substantial meat and the milk and the fat. I'm eating it, I said. And when they raise the frequencies and people get affected, now you have something else to blame on top of the public health therapies. I have had no 1-cent hamburgers and no recent public health therapy 23 years ago in the military. So that's my last recent public health therapy. I've had no remedies, but I've had to deal with the damage within during these aggressive frequency shifts. And my healing process is a very short and efficient and relatively pain-free. But now you all have a way out and blame something when the frequencies go up, and then they're also selling the lab-created meat or given to you for almost free, and they're also proliferating the public health therapy. So now when the frequencies change, and they have October 4th, which is another, system-wide alarm system, and then the frequencies change to such a level, now all the activists will blame the hamburger meat, and they'll blame the public health therapies, and blame the frequencies from probably that October 4th thing. Oh, I'm telling you, the system is always looking for a patsy. It's fucking genius. That's the nature of war. They don't want you to know who the enemy is, and if the enemy is far away, they'll make you think the enemy is near. When the enemy is near, they want you to think they are far away. That's Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Fucking read that. Read that. The art of war is to engage people who don't know they're being engaged into, don't know what they're being engaged into. The art of war is selling people into war. The art of war is making people think their whole world is tainted and polluted, and so they purify themselves to death. That's psychological operations. And the kicker is they'll tell you you're adaptable, but they don't tell you how to adapt to stay alive to adapt. They tell you you can only adapt for so long, but what they fail to tell you, pain and all the food, regardless of where it comes from, is the key to adaptation. And you'll only hear biological immortality from someone who is not professional, because you've already been trained to listen to only the professionals and resist them relative to what you want to do around that. But not realizing the professionals only teach you how to pass away after being cured for only so long. That's some high-level psychological operations, if I've ever seen. And I've witnessed and seen some pretty fascinating psychological operations. Some basic ones are reverse psychology, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The system also sexualizes your bunghole, so you're afraid of it, and it's stigmatized, and you'll never understand it unless somebody else is messing with it, unless your sex partner or your doctor. And at this point, they are one of the same, because both penetrate you in some way or another. Okay, that's how the system has made you afraid of how you can release the programming that they programmed into you. They made you afraid of poop, they're made you afraid of your butthole. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's not. So that's fucking awesome, right? That's genius. Your programming is in your colon. That's what runs your fucking brain. And so the only people left standing are those who are strong enough for the war, and it doesn't even matter if you have knowledge of it. You survived it, right? When the oblivious man and the aware man can still win a war, and they don't even have to be on the same team. They could take completely opposing viewpoints and still win the war because they were strong enough. They had what it takes to deal with psychological and environmental weather war. Right? That's the thing, is that I might survive for the most part, and someone else might, but they might die because they're not releasing the demons, but they might survive and live long enough to see things, but then they're degrading. And so two people might win one specific skirmish because they were strong enough, but it's the wars over time is what you're trying to survive, not just win 1 war, 2 war, 3 wars. It's all the wars that are being waged from now until we're down to 500 million. And so it really is last man standing. And so I see someone post on their Facebook, like when there's a lady that has she's skinny with a bathing suit, lady that's a little bit bigger with a bathing suit. She's like, someone said, mind your business if you see this. Don't have any, opinion, or don't say anything when someone shows, their boobs. Don't say anything when someone is bigger in a bathing suit or smaller in a bathing suit. Just mind your business. I'm like, what the fuck? What? And so everyone has a right, WRITE and RIGHT, to their opinion on their page, but not on someone else's page. You can't troll somebody else. Because no matter what, sometimes when you hear what someone thinks about what you do, what it could lead to, now you know. Own your shit. If you don't like someone else's opinion on their page, mind your business. Touche. We all are subject to other people's opinions, and we must be strong enough for them. If you're not strong enough for other people's thoughts, don't post anything, because every single picture and video and post will be subject to somebody else's opinion and interpretation. So I'm done with trying to resist what people think of me out there. There's groups out there that probably still post my videos and laugh at me, probably still post my pictures and laugh at me, probably still post whatever and laugh at me. At this point, I don't care. Because if you're going to be out there, you have to be strong enough for other people's opinions, but you don't have to deal with them on your page. But don't search out somebody who has an opposing view and try to convert them, because then you start a war. You've just lobbed the first grenade. Everybody has a right to their opinion about you and what you do. And it's difficult to know people think something different of you or oppose you, but that's just the way the world works. Not everybody's going to agree with you. That's okay. That's called life. And by the way, it does take a village, but not in the context you think. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, it doesn't mean you take advantage of people and have them watch your kid because you want to go party. It means that your community can nurture you into making choices. Who you follow, who you hang out with, and influences everything. Who you follow, who you hang out with, influences everything that you do. So it does take a village to raise a kid or destroy a kid. It's who you follow and then who you ultimately copy. And so if you're copying your mother who is in hospice, yeah, her whole world and the world around you supporting her being in hospice is raising your child. It does take a village to raise a kid because it's a lifestyle, it's the belief systems, it's everything. And just because somebody doesn't want to watch your kid because they don't want to be the one to watch your kid all the time, and you had a kid for whatever reason, and now you want to go party, yeah, you don't need a village to raise your kid like that. It's who you follow, who is liking all your posts on Facebook. So it does take a village to raise a kid or destroy a kid. And so yesterday, hold on, let me see. Oh yeah, okay. All right, I got two more. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick. I gotta pee. Hold on. All right, two more concepts and I'll be done. All right, so yesterday, I definitely have been eating a lot today or yesterday, feeling the hunger, a few highs, but nothing crazy, a few heartbeats, but no sleepiness. But I had spaghetti around 11 with cheese. I had a bunch of rice pudding. I had a bunch of onion, a bag of onion and sour cream, potato chips. The rice pudding is perfect, and a thick slice of chocolate banana bread. But I definitely did feel the familiar hunger pangs yesterday, which means my parent cells need the food. But no, it actually is the juvenile cells. Because my parents, yeah, they probably need food too, but there's a bunch of juvenile cells that will trigger the hunger pangs, right? And so my jaw feels great. There's no swelling. See, if you have jaw pain, right, or tooth pain, and you have swelling, it means that you have blockages somewhere and your body can't release because you haven't trained it to release. And so that infection gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what people have to get things drained, like abscesses drained and tumors taken out and clots taken out, or they don't survive the clots. So my jaw feels great. No pain at all whatsoever. All right. So you're supposed to get sick. How long you get sick is based upon how much accumulation of antigen you hold in your body. And so when the frequency does change and you get a few growths and little skirmishes over here and there, your body is well armed to deal with them correctly, and you are not maimed in the process. And you do feel the heat, and you do sweat because your body does go through an energy conversion. And I did sweat a few times yesterday, and even probably a little bit this morning, but it is short-lived, and a temperature does rise. A temperature rise does not warrant treatment. Okay, and so that's the thing. That's the key thing about battling the internal battles. You're not a casualty of the war inside. That's the thing about the J world. You don't want to be a casualty of the war inside your body, because that's what you're in. You're in a war inside your body. It's a microbial war in your body. And of course, the war of information out there. Who are you going to believe? What kind of information are you going to take in? What are you going to do in response to energy? And so that's why you have to allow the battle to be waged inside and feed it and release systematically, because over time, the war won't be as aggressive. And it's not a war, it's just evolution, and you don't have to die from it. And so, yeah, yesterday or this morning, I heard sirens at 4:25 a.m. And so I was up this morning, and I dreamt about being very skinny, too skinny, and I'm waking up hungry. Time for some oatmeal. I didn't eat oatmeal. I just released the demons, and now I'm not feeling that hungry anymore. It's kind of crazy. And so then I'm looking at like people out there, the celebrities like Russell Brand and whoever else. Somebody would ask me, aren't you afraid of revealing so much about the system? I already went through the bullshit of the articles. I already put myself out there on mainstream media. I took my licks. I fought a great battle. I answered to my government, and I won. Okay? What do you mean you won? Not only could I see my side at the time, I could also see what points the system were also arguing, and I understood their argument. And so now I understand both sides, and I'm also able to play both points. And people still don't like that because they want me to stay on one side or the other. So there's some people out there, like you've seen the reviews on my Amazon, like, oh, she's such a hypocrite. Now she's caving in, or now she's saying this, and And I'm like, okay, so I now understand your point of view, and I'm still the enemy to you? Right, because you want me to be the enemy. You want someone to blame for whatever. You want somebody tangible that you can go, because you don't know who it is to blame, because you don't want to blame yourself. You don't want to look at yourself. So there's always somebody out there that you have to go and demonize. And so no matter how much I understand the other side, some don't want me to change my thought process. That's how entrenched people are. Even when you see their point of view, they still want you to be the demon and play the part. Because once you see their point of view, the war is over, at least for you, and they want to keep waging the war. And they need you to be that enemy. They need an enemy, somebody tangible, somebody real. That's why you step out of the war. Because no matter what, people are at war with themselves, and they project it out there. Now look at your Facebook. And so no matter what, I say everything is speculation. I can't prove a damn thing. Just remember, correlation does not equal causation, because there are so many factors involved, and you don't know all the factors. You can only speculate. Okay? And so I can only represent and offer you clues on how things work, but there's no one to blame aside from themselves. And those who think they know what's going on, they will either be silent, speak out, but no matter what, will they survive? And the law says you cannot convict someone unless you have hard proof and evidence, and it's gone through due process, such as the court system. So the only thing left for you to do is just speak out and represent the world we live in according to us, and we get to watch all of us together do what we do. Last man standing. And so every single channel on YouTube and Facebook is someone's representation of their life. You could be a clone or redundant, or you could find a different path and represent. That's the art of war. We are, while also being a petri dish at the same time. And even 50 years from now, okay? Because I'm saying like, okay, I'm saying this stuff now and about, CERN and HARP and all that stuff, right? So that's now. And of course, everyone's like, has their own belief system. But when we're down to 500 million, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years from now, we're down to 500 million, it's not going to matter what I said today. Because all of what I'm saying today will be buried under 50 years of posts. 50 years of posts. Unless you go back, but even then, if you go back to, that's a lot to go back and listen to. People don't have that kind of attention span. And even then, the way my book is going to be written, my next book is going to be written, is going to help you survive climate change. Because it doesn't matter where the climate change comes from. Again, it's only speculation. And I only inferenced, I didn't say hard, I didn't say absolute. I only inferenced that there is a particle acceleration that may or may not be influenced by certain machines out there. I talk about particle acceleration, but I didn't say anything specific. I didn't make any absolute statements in here. I just inferenced stuff that if you are a discerning person that knows kind of what's going on, you can see my inferences. But if you don't have that background, then you'll be like, what the fuck is she talking about? What the hell, particle acceleration? What the hell? But air conditioning and heat is particle acceleration, because it's energy that's either bringing temperatures up or taking them down. That's energy conversion. That's particle acceleration. Okay? And so even then, so when I write my next book, I'm not going to make any absolutes. I'm just going to say there's climate change. Regardless of where you think it comes from, climate change means different things to different people, and how you're going to fucking survive it. And so again, even the system doesn't give you absolutes and tell you what's going on. They give you clues. The movies tell you clues. Because the rules of the Illuminati and Freemasonry is you give people a way out. You give them another belief system that they can hang on to and believe, and everything is happy for them. Because you don't want to ambush them and say, this is an absolute. This is what it is. This is how it is. This is the only way. And this is the only thing to blame. Because then again, that then develops dictators and genocide and all that stuff. So you don't want to go there. So you give everyone the latitude to believe what they want, and they live within the rule of law. What you can say, what you cannot say, and how you represent things. And what factors are you taking into account. And so even 50 years from now, what we say today will not matter. What we say today will be buried under 50 years of evolution, or you won't exist, so it doesn't matter anyways. And so really what's left is be the ultimate survivor. That's what it comes down to. Be the ultimate survivor, regardless of where the changes are coming from, who's doing it and why. It doesn't even matter at this point. Know what the system wants. Okay? And that means you have to study everything. And if you resist, they'll let you resist up to a point. But then you'll resist yourself out of existence. You will become weaker and weaker and weaker. And then you would have already realized the intention. The non-existence of you was at your own hand. Again, you took food away from your kids. You didn't want to change. You didn't want to get out of harm's way. And you thought everything was poison. And you put your money in all the baubles and all the trips, and you didn't put money towards food. And so you're having all these trips and all this fun, but hardly any food. So you're starving to death, and you're managing your disease. So you're then, when you have disease, you're using all the herbs and extracts and supplements and detoxes and surgeries at your own hand. You knew all the warnings. Fucking genius. I got to hand to them. I can't even argue with the logic. I can't fucking argue with the logic. It is so on point. And when you release your demons, you will see where I'm coming from. Bye.